Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a mini lecture on the value proposition. I want you to take a little break from your ideation and your lean cycles. I know you're working very hard this week to do field research and to find out more about your ideas and to ideate. But take a little break, maybe get together as the group and watch this lecture. I'll be talking for about 15 minutes, maybe even less. Let's see how the time takes us. And I'll be telling you a bit about value propositions and why this is relevant for Diamond 2 and your ideation phase. Just a quick note before we get into the content. Me and Nina have updated the weekly schedule, so have a quick look at that. Basically, it works as follows. So instead of having a lecture today, you've all had a 30-minute coaching session with your group from me, and you can watch this lecture on value proposition. So that's today. Next week, we won't have the presentations on Tuesday. We've shifted them till Thursday so that you have a bit more time for your ideation and to work on your value proposition. We've contacted Stefan from Impact City and he's agreed to shift the time as well to Thursday, so that's great. So instead on Tuesday, what we'll do is you'll still come to class, but class will be later. It'll start at 12:15 and it'll only be 45 minutes. And in that 45 minutes, you can ask me any clarification questions that you have that might help you to prepare for the presentation on Thursday. So this is your incentive, not mine. So you should come with questions. Try to limit it to 2 questions per group so that every group can get a bit of attention in that 45 minutes. Everyone should be present for that 45 minutes. So the time before that, you can meet as a group and already work on your idea. You can start, this is why we started the Q&A late, so that in the beginning of class, you can come together as a group and just work on your idea and then come into the Q&A at 12:15 on Collaborate, and I'll be there to answer questions for 45 minutes. Then on Thursday, you will send me the URL to your video presentation 1 hour before class. So send that to my email address. Make sure you do that on time because I need to upload them. And then we will have the presentations. So I'm very excited about that. It'll be really nice to have Stephen watch these presentations with us and give you feedback. After the presentations are done, so each of you will, I'll showcase each of your videos for 5 minutes and then you'll get a little bit of Q&A with each group. After that, Nina has organized a guest lecture to round off this session before the Easter holidays. So that's the layout of the next couple days. Okay, if you have any questions about that, use Teams, ask us, yeah? This video though, today we're talking about value propositions. Now, I'm gonna keep it light because I really want you to focus on ideating and getting out there and doing research about your idea and about your value proposition. But a value proposition is essentially you trying to figure out what the value is that you proposition, that you offer or propose to a customer. But we need to break that down a bit more. So the value proposition is the value that your product, cup of coffee, offers the customer. Yeah, what are you offering that customer? And we can unpack that offering a little bit. In order to understand a value proposition, there's 2 key elements that you need to understand. On the one hand, you need to understand what your product is, the cup of coffee. And on the other hand, you need to understand who your customer is. In this case, me. I'm the person consuming this cup of coffee. Now, that's all well and good. Like we could keep it very basic and say, I am Titus and I'm a little tired and I have a lot of work to do, so I want a cup of coffee. So the coffee gives me energy. But there's much more of a depth in that relationship between a product and its customer. First, let's look at the customer. So in order to understand who our customer is, we need to give a good sketch of who this person or who these people are. So we can look at demographic information, what kind of income level do they have, where do they work, what do they do, what is their family structure? What are their hobbies? What are the day-to-day activities that they're into? What are their political beliefs? What kind of trends are they into? Are they into vegetarianism? Do they live a healthy lifestyle? Do they have hobbies? Understanding these things help us to sketch who our customer is and how to better satisfy that customer through our product. So on the one hand, you have to understand that customer, just who they are, but also what they want to get done and what they struggle with. So for example, let's stick to the coffee example. I want to be able to, I get tired and I want an energy boost. That's something I want as a customer. So that's something I demand. Now there's different ways I can satisfy that. I could satisfy that through doing some exercise, through a can of Red Bull, through a cup of coffee. Let's take those 3 examples. What does coffee offer me that exercise doesn't? So exercise demands more time, it demands commitment, it demands that I have the passion and the energy to go and exercise. So it demands something of me in order for me to go to the gym, for example. So let's say a competitor of the cup of coffee in this case is the gym. For me to go to the gym takes more effort, but the reward is great, right? Health, etc. The cup of coffee has a very different value proposition from the gym. It offers me a quicker fix. It's also focused on taste. Maybe it also comes with certain psychological beliefs about coffee, that it's good, that it gives you the boost that you need throughout the day. It's also part of a general culture here in Holland to drink coffee, right? So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to understand, on the one hand, who the customer is, what they want to get done, and what they struggle with to get that done. So for example, a cup of coffee is a very good product for me when I'm teaching, because I can't go to the gym between like a meeting and a lecture, but I can make a cup of coffee. So it satisfies that value that I'm trying to create for myself in a way that the gym can't. At the same time, of course, the gym offers a very different value proposition for me. So what's very important to understand about your customer and to find out about your customer is, who is your customer? What are they trying to get done? And what are they struggling with when trying to get that done? If you can understand those 3 things, you can sketch a really good value proposition for that customer. So we've got the customer covered. On the other hand, you also want to look at the product or the service that you're offering. So we want to understand what makes a product add value to the needs that customer has. For example, this cup of coffee. You could say, yeah, it's just coffee, but it's more than just the coffee. The coffee comes from a certain brand, it's a certain price point. It was sold to me in a place where I buy my other groceries, so it's convenient in that sense. It was actually on discount when I bought it, which is also part of the value proposition that's being offered to me. So you can dissect a product or a service to a much deeper degree, right? A very good model for this is actually the 4 Ps. So look up the 4 Ps of marketing, which are price, product, promotion, and place. And basically what it says is, if you consider those 4 elements, the price of a product, where and how you promote it, where and how you buy it, place, and the price, product. The product is the features. So, the quality of the coffee, for example, or if we're looking at a laptop, then the specs of the laptop and the build of the laptop is very different, right? So those are the features of the product. And those 4 elements, the 4 Ps, together, they should satisfy, the mix of them, the ingredients of that should somehow satisfy the struggles or the things that I want to get done as an individual. And the better they satisfy those, the more likely I am to go with that product over another product. So that's the value proposition that is offered. In a social enterprise, it gets interesting because you have to create a value proposition for your beneficiary and sometimes your customer, because they don't have to be the same thing necessarily. For example, one of the groups that I coached this morning was looking at creating a job agency for their beneficiaries. So let's say their beneficiaries are people with a past in criminality and they want to help them get back on the job market. Their beneficiary needs a value proposition. So the people that come out of a criminal past, they need to have a reason to go to your job agency and not another job agency. So you need to think about that. Why are they going to go to your agency and not someone else's? On the other hand, you have a customer, which is the company that's going to hire them, and that company is going to pay you. So they are actually your customer. The beneficiary is not your customer in this case. So the customer could be a corporate company that's going to hire these ex-criminals in their company. Then the question is, what are you offering them that another job agency isn't, right? You could offer them, some sort of corporate social responsibility that, they become part of your branding to show that these corporates are helping ex-cons get rehabilitated into society. So it could be from that angle. That it could be that maybe corporates, in some countries, corporates actually have to meet a quota of hiring employees that have some sort of distance from the labor market. They actually have to hire a percentage of their employees have to be from that type of demographic group. So you could offer them that quota. They could meet that quota through you. So in these ways, you need to think very critically. Is there a difference between the value proposition that I'm offering my beneficiary versus what I'm offering my customer? So that's basically the value proposition. On top of the value proposition, we have something called the USP, which stands for the unique selling point. Now, the unique selling point is essentially a specific feature or a specific element or a specific strategy within your product or service that makes it stand out from its competition. In other words, what about your product or service would make me buy it over buying it from a competitor? Or what about your product or service makes me as a beneficiary want to use it instead of not using it or using someone else's? So think about that. What is the unique thing that you're offering that someone else isn't yet offering? A good way to do this is to look at competition, look at what they're doing, and to try to position yourself uniquely. Or if you're working in a certain neighborhood, to do a quick scan to see if someone else is offering a similar service or product. And if not, then you're already quite unique in it. But if they are, then how could you stand out? What is different about you? Also remember that creating impact is not necessarily a value proposition always. So what I mean by that is sometimes in a social enterprise, you'll say, this customer should buy my coffee because it's fair trade and it has a good social impact on Guatemalan farmers. What if it tastes like crap? Right? Then I'm not going to buy it. Then it's not enough. So don't assume that because your product or service has a social element to it, that anyone is just automatically going to use it. We can't assume that. The quality and the price and the features of the product still have to be really good. So try to find that blend between those things. Now, what I want you to consider is you're doing these lean cycles now, right? Of doing some field research, then learning from that, and then rebuilding your idea, etc., etc. I want you to consider the value proposition in that discussion and in those cycles. So how can you do some tests or how can you do some field research to find out more about price, product, place, and promotion for one of your ideas? Or how can you find more out about the customer and who the customer should be or what they're struggling with really? Or what their demands are, what they're looking for, what they really crave. Because you've probably been making some assumptions about your ideas. You've probably made some assumptions about your beneficiaries, that they want something specifically or that they would benefit from a certain product or service. Try to, in your lean cycles, find ways to test whether what you think is true is actually true. Right? So after watching this session, come together as a group and really reflect on this for maybe one or two of your more prominent ideas. So maybe in the next 2 days, spend a bit of time just fine-tuning the ideas, but then when you have one or two, really go in depth on the value proposition so that on the presentation on Thursday, you can really say, look, we've tested some elements of this value proposition, and this is what we believe is true about the value proposition. Remember, the value proposition is about the interaction between the customer and the product. So you need to have both. Both the customer and the product need to be to some degree well-defined and to some degree well-tested. If you're interested in reading up about this a little bit more, which I highly encourage you to do, is there's a couple things you can you can look up. One is look up value proposition. Read about value propositions. 2, look at the value proposition canvas specifically. There's actually a really nice video where someone applies the case of Tesla to the value proposition canvas. The value proposition canvas is a tool that allows you to make that connection between the customer and the product and to find a fit between those two things. So have a look for that video on YouTube where they apply the case of Tesla to the value proposition canvas. It'll help you to understand the interaction between these two things. Another thing that you can look up is the 4 P's of marketing. This will help you. So look up, just type in 4 P's of marketing and you'll get a lot of information about things that you can consider when looking at price, product, place, and promotion. And finally, another very interesting element that you might want to research is the customer journey. Basically, when buying or using a product, some products, as a customer, you go through a journey to buy that product, use that product, and make use of that product, and maybe some after sales communication with the company, right? So for example, if I want to buy a product on bol.com, then I would go online, search for a product, look at the product reviews, etc., make a selection and purchase it. Each of those steps is part of my customer journey. Some of those steps might not be so good. So for example, the review system on Bol might be really crap, or being able to actually put the product in a cart and purchase it might not work so smoothly. In the same way, you can consider a beneficiary's journey or customer journey in their life to try to find faulty points or pain points in their journey that you can offer and contribute to, and where you could position your value proposition. So the customer journey might be something interesting to read about. So have a look at that. For the rest, like I said, have a look at the weekly schedule. Really work on these lean cycles. I'll do a little check-in with you on Thursday through the Q&A. So prepare any questions you have. Remember, 2 questions per group. Yeah, this was a short and quick and light intro to value propositions. But the main purpose of this week is to really test, right? To really get out there, try to find out things about your product or service, try to find out things about your customer, try to find out things about the potential impact you can really make. And don't make too many assumptions. Test your assumptions instead. Have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday or next Tuesday. Bye.